The number one thing is knowing that it's okay to fail. Most successful people have failed a bunch of times. I don't see failed opportunities as failures. It's like, again, a learning lesson to talk about challenges. I feel like it's the same thing. A lot of people have self-doubt, and so they don't want to take that first step, especially the youth that we talk about today. They need to know that they can do anything.
Hi, welcome to Don't Be Coy. I'm your host, Uncle Lew, and today I have the honor, pleasure, and the utmost appreciation to have with me today, Mr. Rio Estolos. What we'll be doing today is a sneak peek of season 3, so thank you all for being here for this episode of Don't Be Coy Live. Rio, just to kick us off a little bit, do you mind just introducing yourself just for the people here and telling a little bit around your personal and professional journey?
Sure. Thank you, Melvin. It's an honor and privilege to be on the podcast here with you. I appreciate you. My name is Rio Estolos. I go by Rio. As far as inner renaissance and a quick glimpse, I've been doing this quite a while. Was born and raised in San Francisco in my early years. Thankful to grow up in a place that was so diverse and so much culture around me. When I think of inner renaissance, that's what comes to mind is being around so much music, love, culture, history. This made me what I am today. So really was born into vintage shop here. It took me a long time to get to this level. Had a father who sold antiques, older sister who sold vintage. And I grew up around that, just always been around.
So as you were talking about getting into vintage and stuff of that nature, and you were saying it took you a while to get to this point.
Yeah.
Do you mind sharing a little bit around what that journey was like for you to decide to bet on yourself and say, hey, I'm gonna go and get my own shop?
For sure.
A little bit around what you were doing prior before that?
Yeah. So I've been working odd jobs, different jobs since I was about 17, 16 years old. Ever since I was a young kid, I had dreams about clothing, being around marketplace, doing something, but I never didn't take it serious until like early 2000. Late 90s, I was selling out of the trunk, selling vintage stuff, selling clothing, reselling things. It was a long journey. Like I said, I was the last position as far as working for somebody. I'd worked at a corporate company for 15 plus years. And the day I started that company, I was trying to figure out how could I have my own business. And man, I took little steps and dabbled in different things that led up into going full time. But for me, it took several years to get, and it was just like doing little things each day, whether it was like a pop-up or when I think about the journey, sometimes I try to remember like how far to go back. But yeah, started off just trying to have a website and had my first brick and mortar in 2004.
I think what you touched on there as far as just starting with the website is like a really key point, because it's just like how many times I just can think about myself where it's like there's something that I really want to do, but it's like a thought of just what, I guess you could say a what if or whatever, but turning that thought into something actual or something tangible that you can do, and turning that idea of saying I really want to start my own business into saying, okay, I'm gonna get into a website. That's pretty big, right? Because to take the steps to coordinate with people, to build up the frame, to build up your inventory, there's a lot of back end work before you can get to take that step. So it's just, I'm curious, what was that kind of motivation to keep you going through that initial step before you got to the brick and mortar?
Sure. The motivation changed at different times. I mean, there'd been a lot of different mindset changes, you know what I mean? Really inner growth through the process. There's always a process in the steps that I took to get there, you know what I mean? I guess that's why I started to talk about the website, because for me personally, it took a long time, you know what I mean? It wasn't something that like I just tried to do a couple years ago. I really have been taking a lot of chances for many years and started off like before internet.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But essentially, it's like getting to a place to where you eliminate the doubt. I think that's what like holds us back a lot of the time, is like being scared to take that step, to take that 100% leap and that faith in yourself. It took me personally quite a long time.
Yeah.
But I was developing and learning in the process.
Yeah.
But I would say like 2007 is when like I really was like, okay, I'm gonna do this. If I'm working this hard for somebody else, I 100% know I could do this for myself.
Yeah.
And just took the steps to do that.
No, I appreciate that, man. So in the sense of taking the steps to go finally say, hey, I'm gonna start my own business, I'm gonna do my own thing.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've experienced various different challenges throughout that time. As you were saying, it wasn't just a one-time thing. It was like multiple attempts that led to eventually where you're at today.
For sure.
I'm curious about when it comes to how you face those challenges, how did you, for lack of a better term, endure them so that it helped keep that motivation around what the faith that you had in yourself?
For sure. I feel like what that makes me think about is there has been a ton of challenges, but it's not looking at challenges. Now I don't look at challenges so much as challenges. I look at them as not obstacles, but what's the word I'm looking for? Not a challenge, but just a lesson, a learning experience, something that we learn from when you go through the situation. And we've had these challenges before. I've always been able to turn that into a positive situation. So when these challenges come up now, why is that anything different to me now? It's just like something that needs to be figured out. Example of that would be pandemic hit and customers can't come in the shop.
Mm-hmm.
So how do we figure it out? How do we, you've got to get creative. You've got to go inside, work with your people, utilize your resources. Yeah, we need challenges. Challenges is a part of growth. And that was something I think is important that we have those challenges. You know what I mean? That makes sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, through those challenges, we can learn so much. I had a shop up the block and the pandemic hit. Shop was going on here, the protests, stores are getting blasted out. People didn't even want to come outside. People don't even want to go outside and shop. So it's like, what do you do in those situations? My family friends who are actually here today, we had a shop in Tacoma and we learned to work together in that situation and reinvent yourself. How can we keep the doors open?
Yeah.
So it's like figuring out anything that you can do when you're in that situation. And I think it comes down to being able to reinvent yourself.
Yeah.
Being able to like really think about, okay, this is going on here. How do we work around this? How do we get through this? And it's just, there's always a way. There's always a way to do it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think I really like what you touched on there as far as just being able to reinvent yourself, because that goes into that whole theme of what we talk about as far as inner renaissance or inner rebirth. We have these various different circumstances that happen in our lives that transforms us, but like, how do we, like, I guess you could say, take the opportunity of the new us, who we are, and use that as like motivation, and not necessarily reinventing ourselves, but necessarily knowing how to use the tools that we've now developed. And so what I'm curious about is, you've had these various different challenges or lessons that taught you things to help you grow and develop. Now you're seeing a lot of the fruits of your labor, right? Like, you're seeing a lot of success from various different artists, from the local level to like the, even I would say, national and international level. And with that, like, how do you take that as an opportunity to keep on growing and using some of the lessons that you've learned to keep that inspiration going? Because I could see how getting to a point where you're seeing a lot of the fruits of your labor, it can be overwhelming, but
for sure,
appreciating those moments, if that makes sense.
It does. I've really been in a place of gratitude, specifically the last couple of years, just sitting in a place of gratitude, being that it did take me 15 plus years to have a store and not to work for anybody else, that I'm just thankful to be able to do what I love. I have dreams about like clothing and different textures and colors that like I've been noting down. That's what's coming up when you say like aspirations and like the future of what's been going on. You know what I mean? And how do I guess stay inspired?
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. You touched on something there as far as like being able to express gratitude. I'm curious about what are some of the lessons that you can share with the audience and things and
Sure.
listeners around that journey of being able to express gratitude for yourself? Because I think I can only speak for myself as an individual, but sometimes there's a challenge in being able to be grateful to oneself or being able to express that gratitude. And it looks differently for like different people and things of that nature, but what are some of the small things that you do to show gratitude to yourself, if that makes sense?
For sure. Just waking up in the morning and God that I'm alive was one thing. And just every day I'm like, why did I wake up?
Mm-hmm.
Some people didn't. I'm lucky. So I need to utilize my day and this time to do what's important to me. And I think what this conversation also has me thinking about is as we mature and as I mature, certain things are more important to me. There's so many opportunities that have been arising in the last couple of years. I mean, at one point I would be like, I want to do all of them. Now I'm a little more picky because peace of mind is so important. You know what I mean? It's not just that grind. There was a point to where like it was all about the grind and staying up late, waking up early. And now it's just like it is time to enjoy the fruit of what's been going on, like you said. So a mindset change, just again, like a big thing is, yeah, betting on yourself, believing in yourself every day. If it's writing it down, if it's telling yourself that, whatever you have to do. And then when I say mind shift, as far as gratitude and everything I'm talking about, it's listening more to what's going on and what's around, and listening to yourself and not always working to get a specific outcome, but doing what is important for the heart and soul. Again, like I said, I'm in a real place of gratitude. This is just like what these thoughts resonate with me when I think about the current climate and the current situation is, yeah, we need to work together as much as possible. I mean, and the future, what I see in the future is just like giving other people platforms to shine, and hold classes to motivate other people like you're doing right now, and understand that we all have an impact on everybody, big or small, whatever you're doing. Everybody has some sort of game or intelligence that they can share with one another. And so I'm just recently getting to a place where that's what's important to me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I think that's a really good pivot to like the last part of the conversation where you talked a little bit, or you talked about as far as believing in oneself, like that mindset shift and understanding like not your core values and how they align with what it is that you aspire to do. I'm really curious about, and you have various different projects going on as far as like on the block and different things of that nature.
Yeah.
But I'm curious as far as giving some of that gratitude and being present and like giving back, like how do you align that with some of your future projects that you have going on?
For sure. The conversations I've been having the last year, different creators, different people. An example would be like, I got a kid who works with a nonprofit company and he's showing kids how to make their own t-shirt. So we have a big event coming up August, and maybe you might see some of that work take place where kids can come and see how to actually make a t-shirt, how to design a hat. We go to a different school and show the youth how to actually create a t-shirt, and show how they could sell it, how they can market it. Those are the type of things like that, you know what I mean? I've got some equipment that I've been working on specifically for that too. So just in the brainstorming phase as far as that specifically, but we got something coming out in August that you should see some of that in the physical actually taking place.
Yeah. So I think that's a really good like full circle conversation, because we didn't necessarily touch on it a lot, but as you mentioned, like you've been in the game a long time when it comes to vintage and like fashion and different things of that nature. And now you've gotten an opportunity to grow, build your success, and essentially give back. I'm curious about when you're giving back, there's always that aspect around like giving a piece of yourself or lessons that you want to give away from that. From the lessons that you've learned working with your father for selling vintage, doing it on your own, and now trying to give that back as a, for lack of a better term, like trade or pursuit opportunity, like what are some of the takeaways that you want to ensure that you're instilling into the youth or anybody who's interested in, not necessarily specifically towards vintage, but really interested towards betting onto themselves and at that point where they can give back?
For sure. The number one thing is knowing that it's okay to fail. Most successful people have failed a bunch of times. I don't see failed opportunities as failures. It's like, again, a learning lesson to talk about challenges. I feel like it's the same thing. A lot of people have self-doubt, and so they don't want to take that first step, especially the youth that we talk about today. They need to know that they can do anything, right? And so how do we instill that into them?
Yeah.
I think that is giving them the tools to do that, being them around them, letting them know it's okay to fail. Because again, it was I've had multiple shops before I got to do it full time. So again, I say believing in yourself would be ideal. Number one, just knowing that, think about it in a way as to where failing is a part of the journey sometimes.
Yeah.
Because we need those lessons. Yeah, and just taking the steps daily, even if it's a small step, they add up over time.
Yeah.
And when I was young, I would say I wish I listened more. There's so much we can learn from listening. A lot of times, like, people will act like they want to know. A lot of times they don't listen. So I think that we can learn the most just from listening sometimes and listening to other people. And specifically the youth. I learned so much from the youth. Like, they come in and talk to me, and I feel like I learned so much. I have a 19-year-old son, and he puts me up onto so many things. And so it's, again, if there was something I could tell my younger self, that would be to listen more when I was young.
Yeah.